I'm Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum. I'm the founder and CEO of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And I am so excited because you are in my kitchen today, and with me is a special guest. This is Dr. William Davis. He is the author of Wheat Belly and Super Gut. And today he is going to show you how to make the special yogurt and also other varieties. So I'm so excited. I have been making this yogurt and I love it. Not only do I love it, but my 2.5-year-old twin grandkids love it too. They keep saying, more yogurt, more yogurt. And I think you will be saying that too once you make it. It is super easy to make. Dr. Davis is here to show us how.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you for use of your beautiful kitchen. So Sandy's laid out all the pieces we need. You know, don't make this harder than it is. It's really very simple. It's no more difficult than getting some seeds in your backyard garden and planting seeds for tomatoes. It's really not that different. So Sandy has a batch she made previously. So you'll see, as often happens, there's some separation, which is normal. There's curd, solid, and whey, the liquid. We can use either or a combination of the two. So let's start by putting the dry ingredients in first in a clean container. So we're going to put in a source of the microbe. Now that microbe could be a little of a prior batch. So I'll take maybe a couple of tablespoons or so. Curds or whey, right? That should do it. That's all you really need. Because these are serving as seeds. I'll leave that there. Then we want to add a little bit of prebiotic fiber. Do we have some? Aha, yes. Thank you.
It has inulin.
So inulin. Now, we will be coming out in future with a sterile inulin because occasionally there's a contaminant in the inulin. Most of the time, this is only occasionally a problem, so don't get too worked up about that. I'll just grab this for now. And you need about a tablespoon. Oh, sorry, there is a container in here.
There's a little scooper.
All right, let's do that. So that looks like about a teaspoon. So let's add, let's say, 2 or 3 teaspoons.
Usually I do about 4
Okay.
to measure. So you're saying about a teaspoon of that.
Yeah. So you can play with the proportions.
Okay.
If you've got a lot of inulin at the bottom at the end of the process, ignore it. Don't worry about that. Or stir it up and you can consume it yourself. Because remember, inulin is a prebiotic fiber that's good for you and the bacteria in your gut. So don't obsess too much about the quantity of inulin. And then we're going to make a slurry. The reason for that is we don't want the inulin to clump. So things are getting harder and harder to open.
This is, I know.
Okay, so gotta add maybe a couple of tablespoons. That's it. And then here's Sandy supplied a whisk or a spoon, either way. And you want to just break up the clumps of inulin. Now, another way to do this. So we've used a little bit of Sandy's prior batch, but you could also use a source of the probiotic, of the microbe as a probiotic. And ones I would advise is a capsule of the reuteri biotic or a capsule of the adiponectin. The adiponectin has additional ingredients, but that's okay. The only change will be because there's a carotenoid, astaxanthin, in the adiponectin, the first batch you get will have a pink tinge to it. Ignore it, that's the carotenoid. Subsequent batches will lose that pink tinge, but it won't have the collagen peptides, hyaluronic acid, or astaxanthin. So if you want those things, you can add them yourself as, bovine collagen, other things. This becomes really helpful because Sandy and other people say they'll have friends, daughters, mothers, sisters who say, Sandy, I love what it's doing for you. Give me some. And, well, come on, this is going to cost a lot of money. So you can show them how to make the yogurt, and they can add the bovine collagen, hyaluronic acid, astaxanthin on their own if they want to. But let's pretend I didn't add the prior batch. Let's add something. Let's add the microbe from one of these products. So that's the adiponectin, okay? We got this business. All right. You can see the capsules are pinkish. That's from the astaxanthin carotenoid. So let's pretend I didn't add a little bit of yogurt. I'm going to start instead with the capsule. So same process though. Open the capsule, pour it in, see the pink color? If you can see that. And we don't want that clump either. So we're going to mix it so there's no clumps. So very simple, just to make the slurry so there's no clumping.
Is it true that we don't need to vigorously beat it and blend it too
No.
much? Just
In fact, if you're
gently.
too vigorous, you start to kill those guys.
That's what I had heard, so I wanted to make sure. But yeah.
So I'll top it up with the rest of the half and half. Of course, we're using half and half because I think Sandy and I agree. We reject this idea of limiting fat. Ironically, the most healthy part of dairy is the fat. People are buying skimmed, low fat. You don't need to do that. It does not cause heart disease. That is nonsense. Now we're going to add a second one, right? Top it up so Sandy doesn't have to make more for another week or more. Okay, all right. After a long struggle.
Hardest part of making the yogurt for me is getting that out.
That's the hardest part, right? So we're going to use about a quart here. That's pretty standard. Stir lightly and then cover. Now you want to make sure a few things. You want to make sure your utensils are clean. These are steel, so they're clean. But sometimes devices have a joint where maybe the rubber or the plastic handle meets the metal or other material. That area right there is a source for contamination. So be particularly attentive to any potential dirt or fungi or mold in those locations. Likewise, if you use a stick blender, like if you're using coconut milk, make sure those blades are clean. That's another source of contamination. And so everything here clean. So we're going to put this in Sandy's. She's got a yogurt maker. So as you likely know by now, 36 hours at human body temperature. So roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. 36 hours, that's my method because we want the microbe to proliferate, to double. Microbes don't have sex, right? There's no male-female microbes. They just double themselves. And so if reuteri doubles about every 3 hours at human body temperature, we're allowed to double 12 times, 36 hours. And that's why we get numbers like 300 billion per half cup or 120 milliliter serving. And so this goes on for 36 hours. Sandy has, at the end of that process, wonderful thick yogurt that has all those fantastic effects.
And I usually make mine around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening because I don't want to time it so that it'll go off 36 hours at 3 a.m. And so I'll make sure that it'll be 36 hours, so that it'll be about 7, 8 a.m. And that's great. Then I put it in the refrigerator. And the one thing that we need to do for this particular yogurt maker, I'm assuming it's for all, is to add water to it before we would turn it on. Okay?
Oh, we didn't show that part. So this device uses a water bath, so you're exactly right. So you get a little more uniform dispersal of the heat.
Well, this is fabulous. And as I said, this is my go-to. I love it. It's delicious. And I will sometimes add it to smoothies as the final step, or I eat it as my dessert. I'll put some cacao nibs and some fruit in it, and it is so yummy, but also good for you.
Right. Do you mind if I say something about SIBO yogurt?
Oh, please do.
So those of you following this conversation know that there's also something that I call SIBO yogurt. And all that means we're going to ferment Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus gasseri, and the original recipe was for Bacillus coagulans, more recently replaced by Bacillus subtilis. And the rationale is easy. We want microbes that colonize the small intestine because incredibly, half the U.S. population has allowed the overproliferation of fecal microbes, E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter. These are unhealthy species that have been allowed to proliferate because of our overexposure to antibiotics, glyphosate, herbicides, etc., and remarkably have been allowed to ascend into the 24 feet of small intestine, where they live and die rapidly. They live about several hours, that's it. Trillions of microbes where they don't belong in a very permeable small intestine, and their toxic compounds get into your bloodstream. And that is why, that's how microbes in the small intestine can be experienced as depression, anxiety, dementia. In the skin as rosacea or psoriasis or seborrhea or eczema, or in the uterus as premature labor, or in the prostate as prostatitis. Or, in other words, we have to reconsider, rethink all we thought we knew about human disease in light of the contribution of microbes in the gastrointestinal tract, but specifically in the small intestine. So one of the things we can do is combine 3 microbes, Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus gasseri, Bacillus subtilis, because all 3 colonize the small intestine, which is very unusual. Most microbes don't do that. Most probiotic microbes don't do that. and produce bacteriocins, natural antibiotics effective in killing those fecal microbes. So now, in the original formulation, I fermented all three. So I would add a capsule of Gasseri, I'd add a capsule of Bacillus subtilis or Bacillus coagulans, and we'd co-ferment them. And that worked about 90% of the time. 90% of people, just with that co-fermentation, would get rid of by hydrogen gas measurement. And we have the AIR device, AIRE, that we have no relationship with. It's just a neat device. You don't have to do that. But in case you want to track the hydrogen gas production, that reflects the infestation of your small intestine by microbes. More recently, I think it's better to individually ferment each one. Reuteri separate, Gasseri separate, Bacillus subtilis better. The reason why we shifted from Bacillus coagulans to Bacillus subtilis is because the coagulants proved to be kind of unreliable in dairy. We were getting wild variation in numbers. So we've since converted to much easier to ferment Bacillus subtilis. And one source of the subtilis, I love when it's inexpensive, Sandy. Yeah. So I got this at Aldi's, $2.19. Oh, it's labeled kombucha. It's not kombucha. Kombucha is made with a SCOBY. This is made with a 1 microbe, Bacillus subtilis, the DE111 strain. I'm sorry about these crazy numbers. I don't make them up. But this will be a source, and we'll show separately how to make the sparkling juice. Or you can get Bacillus subtilis. Another strain is HU58. You can get that from Microbiome Labs. We have no relationship, except we know the founder. He's our friend.
I know him too. He's a friend of mine. We love him.
And you can use that to make yogurt. The reason I'm not real fond of making this with to make yogurt is it may be effervescent. And effervescent yogurt is a little bit strange, right? But same principle. 36 hours, human body temperature, and then consume each individually. The reason we did that, if you co-ferment all three, we don't know what happens at batch 5, 8, 10. There could be a shift in the relative numbers of those microbes. And so to prevent that, we ferment them individually and consume a little of each. And that has proven to be spectacularly effective in normalizing breath hydrogen gas, meaning you've gotten rid of the SIBO and thereby the contribution via endotoxemia for all those modern health conditions.
That's fabulous.
Okay.
I can't wait to try that.
Thank you, Sandy. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being in my kitchen and showing everybody how to make this yogurt and now how to use this kombucha to make this new product. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.